All right, let's go ahead and pivot to the part that actually keeps you guys up at night. The fantasy football fix, and what we like to call here at Better Days Sports, the Better Days lineup. So, what I'm going to do here is at least give you my picks for week 6 and give you some things that you need to look out for so that your lineups are ready and as strong as they can be so that you can beat your opponents and talk that trash all next week once you pull out that win after Monday night. So, let's go ahead and get into it. First things first, I do want to discuss the injuries. So, Omarion Hampton has been placed on IR, so he's going to be out at least the next 4 weeks. And I know that that's a big blow to anybody who currently has them on their roster because he was balling, definitely balling. So if you do have Omarion Hampton on your roster, you definitely need to start looking at flex and streaming options, at least for the next month, while he recovers from his foot and ankle injury. And we also have Kyler Murray showing up on the injury report after Sunday's game, dealing with a foot injury as well. Now, granted, he was able to return to the game and still perform, but it's still worth monitoring on if that was just to see how he was going to run it after getting the injury diagnosed, but it's still something that is worth looking out for. So I think that Murray's going to play this upcoming week, but still keep an eye on it. Maybe see what the waiver wire looks like in terms of quarterbacks if he is a late scratch at the end of the week. But let's go ahead and talk about these quarterbacks. So right now, I know that we have 2 teams on a bye week, and that is the Vikings and the Texans. So that's a good thing. We only have 2 teams on a bye week, so there's not a lot of players that are going to be out this week, but still, you are going to be without CJ Stroud, and you're going to be without Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and company. So we have a couple of players that might want to take a look at if they are available in your leagues as streamer or flex options. And right now, I think that the best 2 that should be on the waiver wire right now would be Sam Darnold and Bryce Young. And I mean, Sam Darnold has been producing for the Seattle Seahawks this season. He has his number 1 target, as I stated before, with Jackson Smith and Jigba. They have the number 1 defense, and he has Charbonnet, and he has K9 Kenneth Walker in the backfield, and he knows how to spread that ball around and make points happen. I think that he would be a great start this week as a streamer option, and he would probably be my top choice to go ahead and put in your lineup if you are looking for a quarterback that is out during a bye week. Number 2 on my flex and streamer option, I definitely would go with Bryce Young. And I get it, there may be a lot of hate with Bryce Young and how his growth and productivity as a quarterback may be to Carolina fans and quarterback fans alike in the league. But, looking at this week's matchup, it's going up against Dallas. And I've said before that I don't think that Dallas's defense is the best. I mean, we saw what Green Bay did to them a couple of weeks prior, and we saw what the Jets were able to produce on their defense as well. Granted, the Cowboys won that game. They still gave up over 20 points of offense. So I think this will be a really good game for Bryce Young to go ahead and have a bounce back game as a streamer option to see if he can go ahead and put a couple of touchdowns in. I see him averaging maybe between 15 and 18 points this week, especially if he's able to get that elusive touchdown to Tech McMillan. I know they've been hunting. I know he's their most targeted receiver while Xavier Legette is out. But those would be my best 2 options right now for quarterbacks for week 6 in terms of streaming options. But I think there is one more that I want to give a discussion about, and I know that he gets a lot of controversy because of his injury history in the past, and that's Tua, tanking for Tua down in Miami, right? I think that he's going to have a bounce back game against the Chargers, right? And honestly, if we look at my lineups, I have Bryce and Tua in my top 15 quarterbacks this week. So this would be a really good game to put Tua in your lineup if he's available in your league. I think him and Jalen Waddle have established some great chemistry now that Tyreek Hill is out for the season. Waddle is the number 1 receiver, and I mean, he proved it this past Sunday in Carolina with the touchdown and the 74 yards, I believe, that he had, and as the wide receiver. So definitely would put Tua in as a flex option if you need a quarterback this week. And those 3 guys will probably round out what I have for you guys in terms of your best streaming options as a quarterback this week. If we want to go desperate streaming options, I would say my desperate streaming options would be Carson Wentz and Geno Smith. I used to have Geno Smith high on my streamers list, but just based on how the Raiders have been performing recently, I don't know if that would be the best option right now, especially considering how many picks that he has thrown so far up at this course of the season. The Colts defense just made him look inefficient, and we hate to see that from a quarterback. But I would honestly go Carson Wentz over Geno Smith at this point, because Carson Wentz has at least shown that he can lead that offense down the field and get a win when necessary, as we saw what he did in London against the Browns. So I will go Carson Wentz as my desperate streaming option for quarterbacks. But rounding out to running backs. Running backs. So as I mentioned, if you have Amari and Hampton on your roster, I would definitely be vigilant and seeing if you could pick up any of these guys that I currently have on my list if they are available. So starting out that list, even though he is rostered in about 70% of leagues, Quinshon Judkins. I want to talk about Quinshon. He has turned into the focal point of the Cleveland Browns offense with the quarterback changes that they are currently having, and Dylan Gabriel still understanding the comfortability with the concepts and the routes of the receivers and this offense that he is now running. I think that they are leaning heavily on their run game moving forward, as we saw with what they were able to do with Jerome Ford and Quinshon Judkins against the Vikings this past Sunday as well. So with that being said, even though Quinshon didn't get a touchdown on Sunday, I have him getting a touchdown this upcoming week as well, and I also have him in my top 12 running backs for this week. So I definitely would look into Quinshon Judkins, or at least trading for him at this point, because I see him as a top 10 back for the rest of the season. He is turning into that potential Nick Chubb Cleveland Brown fantasy back that we all know how Nick Chubb was on our fantasy teams when he was at his peak, right? And I see that same trajectory for Quinshon Judkins. So I would definitely look into Quinshon if you are looking for a running back. Also, Rico Dowdle. He balled out in Chuba Hubbard's absence in Carolina this past week. And if Chuba is out again, you have to start Rico. He has shown that he can produce at a high level if he is given the touches out of the backfield. And when Chuba is not there, we already know who those touches go to. So I think Rico this week, if Chuba does not start, Rico is a no-brainer right here. So based off of the points that he gave last week, he gave a big number, over 28, 29 points in PPR leagues, depending on your point setup. So I would definitely go after Rico Dowdle if he is still available. But after what happened this past week, I don't know how available he might be. So you might want to check that waiver wire as soon as you can. Now for my streamer picks right now, I have Michael Carter with the Cardinals. So the reason that I have Michael Carter on this list is he did handle 58% of the snaps when he was performing with the Cardinals this past week, and he also had 5 receptions. So now we see that he is that rushing, receiving back, similar to Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, that we have seen in the league, and that produces a lot of fantasy points if they are given the opportunity to have those type of plays. And also, I know that they are kind of running back by committee down there, since James Conner has been lost to the season with an injury, but DeMarcado, he fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line, similar to what Jonathan Taylor happened to him last year, and also similar to what happened with Adonai Mitchell last week. So I don't know what's going on in the league where we see one of these or two of these even in a season, but I think that that's not going to affect his touches too well, and I think that at least for now, Michael Carter is probably going to be the lead back, or at least handling the most touches as a running back in the Cardinals offense, at least moving forward. And those are my running back better days picks of the week. And let's go ahead and move to receivers, my favorite part of the segment. So receivers, Right now, at the top of my list, if we're going to go for best start options out of the no-brainers, of course, I'm going to go with George Pickens. He had a great week last week. He only had 4 catches, but he had a touchdown as well. So we know that when CeeDee Lamb is out, he is going to be the number one option receiver-wise on the Cowboys offense next to Jake Ferguson as who's a tight end on that offense. But I'm sure that Jake Ferguson is already out of leagues at this point. But back to George Pickens. He's going up against a weak Carolina defense, and he is going to be the number one option in Dallas. And right now, Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP type level. So much, in fact, that I think that he will be the number one quarterback in fantasy after this week is all said and done. So if you're going to be the number one quarterback, they need somebody to throw to, and I think George Pickens is going to be that guy. I think he is on pace for a big week here in week 6. Next on my list, I have Jalen Waddle. I would definitely put him into your starting lineup moving forward for the rest of the season, just based off of what happened in Miami with the injury to Tyreek Hill. I think that Jalen Waddle is going to be very productive and also almost, now I won't say completely, but he will almost fill the void that Tyreek Hill left for some team members, because the game that he had on Sunday was very impressive. He had a touchdown. He was the most targeted receiver, and it has shown that that synergy that Tua and Jalen Waddle has is still there. They just need the space for it to manifest, and right now it's manifested. They are producing. He's the most targeted receiver on their team currently, and I see that happening for the rest of the season. So I will put Jalen Waddle in all of my lineups moving forward. I wouldn't even call him a streamer pick at this point. He is a must grab or even a must trade for. I would definitely see if I could get him for some leagues, a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick if you have it. Or I would put one of my upcoming running backs I would put a running back up for trade for Jalen Waddle at this point. I think that he's going to be a potential top 15 receiver for the rest of the season. So you have to explore. If you don't have him, look at avenues toward getting him. I think now is the time to either sell high or buy high on Jalen Waddle for sure. My streamer pick and my flex option for the week is going to be Josh Downs, Indianapolis Colts. So far, we see how potent that Indianapolis Colts offense is, but we start to see how the touchdowns are distributed in that offense as well. Jonathan Taylor, we already know he's a touchdown machine at this point. Michael Pittman is quietly having a very productive touchdowns-related season. Tyler Warren just got a touchdown on this past Sunday against the Raiders. Josh Downs through weeks 1 through 5 does not have a touchdown on his resume for the 2025 season so far. So I think in Arizona, he's going to finally get that elusive touchdown. I think that Indiana Jones, Danny Dimes, however you want to name him at this point, is going to find a way to get his favorite slot receiver the ball this week. So I would definitely look into acquiring Josh Downs. He should be available in most leagues. I think he is 48% rostered at this point, so definitely worth looking into. But he is a flex option. I think that his floor is very high this week. I see his floor being around 8 to 10 points this week. And if he gets that touchdown, he'll be a top 15 receiver, give or take. Moving on, Stefon Diggs, who has been extremely quiet all season until this past Sunday night football game. Now, is it fool's gold to say that this is only going to be a one-trick pony of a game for the season for Stefon Diggs? It could be, but I think Stefon Diggs has a very innate ability to voice his frustrations publicly so that he can get the type of results that he wants on the football field. He is no stranger to complaining about lack of touches. Ask Josh Allen. And now he's doing it with Drake May, who is a sophomore in the league and is still trying to find his way. And I think that is just the more aggressive way of Stefon Diggs saying, hey, look, you need to give me the ball, young man. You know I'm out here. And then he went up to produce for 148 yards receiving against Buffalo, but I also think that was just a game that Stefon Diggs really wanted to play this season. But regardless of that, I do see his touches going up. I see his targets going up. And when your touches and your targets go up as a wide receiver, the potentials for touchdowns are there. So definitely would explore the option of getting Stefon Diggs in one of your leagues. He should be available based on how week he has performed so far in the season, but based off of that week, you might have guys looking his way moving forward. So I would see where he stands on that waiver wire. Next on the list, I have my 2 flex options for the week, and that is going to be Kendrick Bourne and Alec Ayominer with the Titans and the 49ers respectfully. Now, listen, I'm only going to say Kendrick Bourne if Juwan Jennings and Pershaw are out. If they are out, Kendrick Bourne is going to be the number 1 receiver in that offense. He had 10 catches last game because of that. So if they are out again, you have to pick up Kendrick Bourne and put him in that offense, because whether it's going to be Mac Jones or Brock Purdy leading that offense, Kendrick Bourne is going to be the number 1 receiver as long as Juwan Jennings and Pershaw are out. So definitely we'll look at him as a must-start streamer option this upcoming week. And when it comes to Ayominer, I think the only reason I'm going to put him in a streamer option is because he's going up against the Las Vegas Raiders defense, who just got 40 points scored on them down in Indianapolis, right? And couple that with they don't know really what's going on with the team in terms of offense and defense right now, aside from the Ashton Jeanty-mania that they have going out there in Las Vegas, they don't really understand what the direction of the team is going to be moving forward for the rest of the season. That being said, I think that there's going to be a really good opportunity for Ayominer to get some points on the board this game, and I would put him as a risky flex option going into these weekend's games for sure. And honorable mention, I wanted to talk about defenses. So with defenses, I only have 3 right now, and that is going to be the Packers, the Patriots, and the Commanders as my streaming picks for the week in terms of defenses. The Packers, they play Cincinnati. Jake Browning is the quarterback. Can't really get it to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Chase Brown is a wild card this season. I just don't see it happening for Cincy right now. Even though they did have a fairly productive game against the Detroit Lions where they did score some points, Jamar Chase remembered that he could play football again, or Jake Browning figured out how to finally get the best wide receiver in the league the ball, which you would think would be easy to do, right? I don't think that that's going to happen 2 weeks in a row, especially against a Packers defense that just took a week off, so they're feeling good. Micah Parsons is feeling a lot better now that he has a week off for rest. I think that it's going to be a very long day for the Cincinnati Bengals when they have to go up against that Packers front. Moving on to the Patriots, who just beat the Bills on Sunday Night Football. They are going to be my other streaming pick for this week. Christian Gonzalez being inserted into that lineup after dealing with his injuries this past season has proven to be very productive for that unit as a whole. And I think that it's going to be a very good matchup with them this upcoming week against the Saints, who obviously have Spencer Rattler as a quarterback. You do have to be mindful of Alvin Kamara in the backfield, but based on in terms of threat of opposition, I like the Patriots' chances against the Saints this upcoming week. So I would definitely start them, acquire them, and keep them if you can. Lastly, I'm going to put the Commanders as my final streaming option this week, and that's because they play the Bears. The Bears are coming off a bye week 2, and the only reason that I'm putting them on this list is because they had a really, really good game against the Chargers where they were able to amass 4 sacks and have 2 takeaways as well. I think that something similar to that nature happens when they play against the Bears. Caleb Williams is prone to sacks. It used to be because of his offensive line. Now it could be attributed to him holding on to the ball too long or trying to make something happen. So I would definitely put them down for 2 to 3 sacks this game as a defense and maybe 1 takeaway. And I will put them in my streaming option for defenses this week as well. But that rounds up my pick, guys. So we have discussed our quarterbacks, our wide receivers, and we've discussed our defenses as well as the injuries and the updates to the season. I hope that you guys are able to take a look at these lineups that I currently have here for you guys and my picks and seeing how they fare with your teams and how your lineup's coming up this week. And I will say that we're going to continue to have a good time here at Better Day Sports, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's your boy Ramsey, and this is Better Day Sports. Have a good one, guys. Peace.